and from my day one, I've been working with AI team. And today I will be the moderator for this event. Super excited to have you all again with us. We have a very exciting agenda. We will start off with a quick overview of AI team. Camilo and Charlie will walk us through it, and then we will meet Duccio and Dolly as well. And then we have some questions for our panelists to talk about their careers, what they do on the AI team, and then at the end we will answer your questions. Okay, and Camilo, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about the AI team?
So I have something to share. 1 second. Can you all see my screen? Oops.
Yep.
This one. Let me put in presentation mode. Okay, so hello, my name is Camilo Ortiz. I work in the artificial intelligence group in Bloomberg. I've been in Bloomberg for 7 years, almost 7 years. And I lead one of the branches of AI, which is dealing with communications data. We can talk about me later more, but I'll give you a brief introduction of what's AI at Bloomberg. But before I get there, maybe not some of you are not familiar with Bloomberg as a technology company. We actually been in business 40 years, since 1981. Our core strength is just basically data. Get just data, find interesting things on those data sets, find meta structures and metadata on it, and then push it to our clients so that they can be more effective. They can inform themselves mainly for transparency in the finance world. We're a company of 20,000 people in 167 offices around the globe. Out of those 20,000, there's almost 3,000 journalists and almost 7,000 software engineers. We have like a much bigger footprint on open source community and as well as academic outreach. So here's like a nice diagram of more or less what Bloomberg does. We ingest a lot of data in addition to producing data. So all of the analyst reports that are coming from most of the publicly traded companies. We also ingest all of the emails and communications data where most of the asset classes are traded so that we can automate that and give some transparency in that part of the market. News, filings, social media, a lot of information now is coming from there. And of course, ticker data, which is like the actual market data coming from exchanges like NASDAQ, New York Exchange, etc. And all of that, either we send it directly to our clients, telling them whatever we find, or we present it in different type of dashboards in the Bloomberg Terminal, our number one product, where they can join data sets from communications to I don't know, vessels in the oil industry and news articles from anywhere in the world. And that's how they can inform themselves and be able to improve their investments or just know what's happening about their own companies or their competition companies, etc. Okay, now, but what does AI do in Bloomberg? Right now, and particularly this group, the artificial intelligence group in Bloomberg, we're about 180 researchers and engineers. Our backgrounds come from, I mean, Duccio here, his background is physicist, my background is optimization, of course, machine learning and computer scientists, but at the end of the day, it's just basically be able to do data-driven solutions on detecting entities on text, sentiment analysis, give question answering as a service for other Bloomberg teams, just basically extracting important information that we can do in a data-driven manner. Of course, there are some differences for what you will find in academia, which is mainly the accuracy and the latency are big constraints in our use cases. So where does this fit? Where does this fit in the finance world? Well, basically, we're kind of divided into 6 different groups: editorial, communications, news, discovery, search, and platforms. Editorial, what we call now signals, is how we support our journalists to find important information so that they can create new editorial pieces, or sometimes we even bypass the journalists by creating automatic headlines. In fact, something like 50% of the headlines that are generated by Bloomberg are completely automatic, generated by raw data. Communications, which is the working, is try to extract the dialogue understanding on the negotiations that happens in messages or instant messages. News, of course, understanding news as a whole, from going for the very lower level, which is answering questions about what that news article is talking about, like the entities or the topics, to very higher level questions like, is this topic relevant to this user, or is this entity important for this particular trend happening in the world? So it's almost like answering the question that our users is trying to get answers, like, is this important for me? Discovery, search and platforms are more of an infrastructure type of effort, where discovery, we have probably one of the largest knowledge graphs, where we connect all of the companies with the people that are working in that company, point in time information, the supply chain relationships between them, and you can see how that knowledge graph is key so that we can disambiguate a lot of the information that we ingest. Search, it's almost like a platform of semantic search as a service, where you can, again, type whatever you want and you will have the results as ranked as you need them. And platforms, we try not to reinvent the wheel across all of the groups. So we have a common platform where you can declare the data, the compute, and the software that you need so you can train your model and immediately also have like a seamless way of deploying that into production and handle all of the latency and throughput for you. I think that's pretty much it of where we sit on this nice picture. When it comes to the community, we are also the team that organizes or foments most of the good machine learning and NLP practices across Bloomberg. So we support a notion of the guilds, where it's like a more horizontal efforts where we partner with other teams in Bloomberg so that we can agree on what are the good practices across and how can we also invite people to give seminars in Bloomberg. How can we also promote to even the product owners what are the good practices for you to create new data-driven solutions? Of course, supporting all of the minority communities into bringing them into AI and to tech world in general. And of course, training a lot of the other engineers at Bloomberg, where we know that now ML and NLP is a commodity that should be applied for most of the applications that we have. Externally, of course, we publish papers. A lot of those problems or a lot of the papers that we write come from problems that we need to solve. So, for example, dialogue understanding on group chats is something that's very specific to our use case, where we do find avenues where we apply that approach to public data sets, might as well publish it. Same thing with information extraction, name entity recognition, and news. All of that are problems that are from our day-to-day job, but naturally evolves into a published piece of work. And of course, we fund as well a bunch of grants for research grants, postdocs, interns, of course, and other ways of reaching out. Hopefully, it wasn't too long. But anyway, having said that, please join us. We need more people. We have enough data, but we don't have enough people to join us. Okay, Irinka, I think.
Awesome. And we also have Charlie, Dolly, and Duccio. Let's meet the rest of the panelists today. So Dolly, tell us a bit more about yourself.
Sure. Hi, my name's Dolly. I studied electrical engineering in college, and Bloomberg was my first software engineering job. I worked on Bloomberg.com initially when I joined Bloomberg for more than 5 years, and I've been in AI for 1 year. Right now, I'm working on the ML platform team, as I have a little sweatshirt here, where we build tools for all parts of the model development lifecycle, which includes any compute needs, experiment management, and production serving.
Awesome. And Duccio?
Hello, yeah, my name is Duccio. I'm originally from Italy. As Camilo was saying, I'm a physicist by training. I have a PhD in theoretical physics from a PFL in Lausanne. And Bloomberg is my first non-academic job. I joined after a couple of postdocs. I've been at Bloomberg for 2 years and a half, a little bit more than that. And as I started, I was in communication, Camilo's team. Then very recently, I changed team. I'm in a new team, which is called Signal Extraction, and we deal with problems which are more closely related to quantitative finance, in particular application to machine learning to quantitative finance. And yeah.
Charlie?
Hi, everyone. Super excited to be speaking with y'all here today. My name is Charlie, and I've been at Bloomberg since 2012. Pretty long time here. I'm originally from China, but moved to the States for college. I graduated with master's in electrical engineering from Johns Hopkins, where I was involved in the NLP research lab, Center for Language and Speech Processing. Some of you might have heard of. When I joined Bloomberg, I started in Dash, which is a sell-side workflow tool, for a couple years, and then I joined the AI group. Initially, I helped automating news stories extraction and generation, and then I moved to help build our NLP infrastructure, including our internal widely used NLP library. After that, starting last year, I've been leading a team called Topic Streams, where we try to build tools to enable newsroom to do more powerful work with the help of AI.
Awesome. Now that we know a little bit about our panelists, we have some rapid fire questions for them, just to get to know them better. Ducho, we'll start with you. What's your most random quarantine purchase?
So when quarantine happened here in New York, all cafes won't serve coffee anymore in cups, in actual cups, and I really don't like to drink coffee in paper cups. So I just started to do my own coffee. I bought a coffee grinder and a whole V60 apparatus, and then I've been using it ever since. I'm really happy about it. Yeah.
Awesome. And what's your favorite
My favorite book? Oh yeah, I saw the Cliché, Infinite Jest. I read it all, and I think it's definitely my favorite book, and yeah, life changer.
Awesome. And Dolly, what's your favorite Netflix show?
I loved Queen's Gambit, which I'm sure a lot of people did. It's just such a good show.
And what was your most random quarantine purchase?
Not exactly a purchase, but I've been fostering dogs.
So, and Camilo, if you had a chance to have coffee with any public figure, who would it be and why?
A public figure, sorry, you cut it a little bit. Public figure. Yeah, I didn't mention, I guess, before. I'm from Colombia. I'm calling from Bogota today, actually. But for some reason, I like the Argentinian called Messi. Probably people in Mexico are familiar with him. So yeah, maybe it will be a quiet coffee, but it will be interesting to have coffee with that person. Also, Jorge Ben, if people know Brazilian music, for some reason, I'm obsessed with him.
And what was your most random?
It's also a cliche, I think, for quarantine. So I started buying more and more things to make bread. So that's what I did. I made bread. I could not, as opposed to Ducho, I could find it in the stores, but I decided to make it anyway.
Awesome. And actually, Charlie also makes amazing bread. Charlie, what's your favorite Netflix show?
Favorite, I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit.
Netflix show.
Oh, yes. So I actually don't really watch TV or shows often, but one of the ones I watched most recently was Watchmen. Yeah, that show was really interesting to me.
And what's your favorite app and why?
Okay, so I don't think I have any favorite apps, but one interesting one that I started using was Clubhouse. I know it's been around for like over a year now, but it's really interesting because I got to learn about different topics through real-time conversations with people about like from all sorts of backgrounds. So topics like actually AI or like career advice, sometimes giving people that, and also how to help people break into technology, entrepreneurship, mental health, things like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, now that we know our panelists a little bit better, let's hear about your road into Bloomberg AI. Dolly, do you mind telling us about how you made it to Bloomberg AI?
Yep. My background is probably a little different from most folks in AI. So when I first joined Bloomberg, as I mentioned, I was working on Bloomberg.com, mostly on front end. And then my my current manager somehow knew of a random contact that we both knew, and he was looking for someone with front end skills, but who was interested in AI. And so I guess that's what you would call networking within the big company. And so, yeah, so now I work on the website for our ML platform tools, which is so it's the entry point and dashboard for most of our tools. And so in the future for ML, it's important to be able to visualize things in the model development process. So I'm trying to help work on that.
Awesome. And Duccio, how about you?
Oops, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So I did a PhD in physics. Then I in Lausanne. Then I moved to UC Berkeley for a postdoc. Then I moved again to NYU for another postdoc. And at that point, I really didn't want to move anymore. Me and my husband really like New York. We wanted to stay there. And I had a very short amount of time to find a job. And so I tried a couple of places, and I tried Bloomberg. I really liked it. And I got an offer from there. And this was 2.5 years ago, and I've been there ever since. Yeah.
Okay. And Charlie?
Yes, so I joined Bloomberg and started out with the sell-side workflow tool team, but secretly I was still really obsessed with AI, and so I went to a lot of the internal machine learning talks in the company in the first couple of years, and I chatted with the members from those teams about their work. And so later on, when they were starting a new branch, they asked if I wanted to join, so and I jumped at it. Eventually, that team grew into like the current version of the AI group. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. And Camilo?
Yeah, Bloomberg is also my first job right after grad school. I finished grad school at Georgia Tech, like 2014, a while ago. And when I joined like the general pool of software engineers, actually, but the branch that Charlie mentioned was 6 months old. So yeah, I guess I jumped into it as well right after that, and we're there ever since.
Camilo, back to you. Can you tell us a little bit more? What are the prerequisites to be in AI at Bloomberg?
Yeah, so in AI, and we could probably talk about the actual roles that we offer, but at the end of the day, what we are an engineering, we're an engineering group, right? Our mandate is just basically data-driven solutions. So the prerequisites are basically the normal, proper software engineering practices that you will expect from any software engineering tech company, but also have the math and the skills to know and recognize what will be the proper solution. So I would say, yes, there's some statistical and probabilistic kind of probability kind of background that are needed in some of the roles. But in general, we're not a team that creates prototypes for other teams to productionize it. We are that team that does both things. So that's why the type of people that we look for is quite diverse into like the software engineering and data science and ML engineers type of roles. So it's quite wide now that we're also more than 20 teams within us.
Yeah, and you mentioned that there are software engineer roles and there are research engineer roles within AI. Can you tell us what is the difference between those roles?
Yes, so for software engineering, again, for example, what I do is basically do dialogue understanding and understand when or detect whenever somebody's talking to each other and they mention, for example, a security with a price and a size. You want to extract that and then maybe push that to ticker plant where they can, I don't know, they can actually see not only the prices that are happening in NASDAQ, but also the prices that are happening in their communications. So there's a software engineering component, which is how do you distribute that and how do you push that to all of those systems. So the software engineering role is, again, a pure software engineering kind of background where we want to have people that have the skills to handle or to know what will be the best solutions to handle throughput, to handle this latency, to have high quality code that is never going to be maintained by one person, but by a group. And similarly, for the ML engineering or the ML research role is also machine learning, but machine learning that is done as a group. So you want other people to understand what is the solution that you're giving. You want to that if you have already a solution for a data-driven solution, and you have a very similar problem, then it's very easy to bootstrap from one to the other because everything is kind of done with good practices. But again, at the end of the day, you will need to know the math and what's happening behind the scenes. So yeah, it's very similar in the sense of the spirit of how we solve problems in general in Bloomberg, but the main difference is also having the background to know how to deal with data and doing, again, data-driven solutions.
Awesome. Dolly, you moved from another software engineering team within Bloomberg into AI. Can you tell us how the software engineering role in AI is different from the roles elsewhere?
Yep. My previous role was building an external consumer-facing website. So the business metrics would be quite different, such as trying to increase revenue. But now I'm building tools for other engineers. So our business metrics would revolve more around what engineers need and how we can empower them to develop models. And so that will affect how we make decisions on what to build and how we build them. However, both teams and both roles still focus on the same important software engineering principles that Camilla kind of mentioned before, such as testing, stability, CI.
Awesome. Thank you, Dolly. And Duccio, can you tell us a little bit more about the interview process to join Bloomberg AI team?
Yeah, so when I applied, I had a first introductory phone call with HR that told me about Bloomberg, because I didn't know about Bloomberg at all. I didn't know about Bloomberg AI, so they described what Bloomberg AI does. And then there were two technical phone calls. Then after those, I was invited for an on-site, and they asked me whether I would have been interested to do a talk about my research. And after that, there were 3 technical rounds, and a discussion with a senior manager about Bloomberg AI, and then another round with HR. And that's pretty it. And the great thing is that I got an answer the day after, and that's a great feature.
Awesome. And from hearing your stories, seems like you within AI team, you can move from one team to another team. Duccio and Charlie, you moved across AI team. Can you tell us how does the internal mobility within AI work?
Yeah, so I can start. It's very fluid. So it is understood. So I have been in AI in communications for 2.5 years. And what happened is that the head of AI asked me whether I would have been interested into trying something new. There was a new team that was starting, working on some kind of different problems. And I said, why not? I guess in the end it's understood that we as people have interest that evolve over time, so people like to change, and so it's the transition is very natural. For me, I was asked to whether I would have been interested, and I say yes. So that's my example.
Yeah, and maybe from my end, to set a little broader context for everyone about the AI group, people are hired into AI, typically expected to be strong in multiple areas or an expert in some, but expected to develop these skills over time in areas such as NLP, software engineering, machine learning. And from Camilo's journey, from like he started in I think name entity that disambiguation team, NED team, to machine learning platform, to IB communications. Along the way, he acquired like different types of skill sets. For me, specifically, I moved from like news extraction to NLP platform, and now like helping journalists to improve their workflow. And Duccio already also mentioned his experience. So the commonality across these kind of variability of knowledge involved, such as NLP, machine learning, and quantitative finance, and software engineering is crucial. So mobility also means if someone's deeply passionate about a specific area, we can also help them take increasing impactful projects and collaboration so that they can become a leader in that domain.
I guess to add to it is it's also the fact that we are still a growing organization. We started with Charlie 6-7 years ago with 8 people. Now we're 180. A year ago, I think we were 120. So mobility naturally happens. We cannot have a new project and have only new hires. We need to have people who has experience doing, I guess, industrial ML. So if I have to say that's what's the most common mobility that happens is because we have a new data set, a new use case where we need brains to work on that. So that's where more or less people kind of move into.
And I know AI team members at conferences, you publish, also contribute to open source. Can you tell us a bit more how does publishing and contributing to open source work?
Wait, sorry, you cut out. So you talk about open source in Bloomberg, publishing
Yeah,
on open
publishing
source?
in open source. Yeah.
Oops. Sorry. Yeah, as Camilo said in the beginning, publishing. I'm going to discuss that. Can come out in 2 ways. One which is organic to the kind of work that we perform day to day. So we work on a project, we find some new techniques that maybe can be applied to an internal data set, and we find that it works particularly well. In that case, clearly, we are then going to try to find some external data set to reproduce those results and be able to publish those results at a conference. And this has worked in several occasions, also in my particular experience. Another avenue is that every year, AI has research intern, which are hired exactly to perform research work, which is oriented to publication. So if you are interested in developing a particular project, a particular idea which came out of work, or maybe which is in your background because you have the kind of background and you want to develop with an intern, that's something you can do. And for instance, I had mentored an intern last year. We worked on dialogue, and I'm mentoring another one, co-mentoring another one this year. We are going to work on similar topics. So I see at least these 2 ways through which publication at least can be achieved, research work.
Yeah, and I'll talk a little bit about open source, as my team is a little bit more geared towards software engineering. As a whole, open source at Bloomberg is encouraged. My team specifically has been very involved in a few different projects. One is KF Serving, which supports serving models and Kubernetes infrastructure. And then one of our team members has also been working on build packs, which you can use to turn your code into images to run on cloud.
Yeah, but it's not only the infrastructure teams, but also my team also has been working on adding patches to PyTorch Lighting whenever we want to deploy something and we're using that. We're definitely using a lot of that technology, and here and there, there's things that are blocking us, which just means give our open source contribution. And something else to add in when it comes to contributing, we're increasingly also now doing data set papers where we also contribute data to the community. Of course, data that is also beneficial for us because we will be solving very similar problems with our internal data. So that's also something that we know both Bloomberg and the community will grow by doing it.
Awesome. I think these were the questions that we had for the panelists, and now we want to answer your questions. So maybe we can take some of the questions that you can either, speak up, either, post in the question answering chat, or, write in the chat, and we will start answering your questions. So I guess I can read off some of the questions and we can answer them. What are some of main beliefs Bloomberg prefers as part of their culture? So I guess how can we describe Bloomberg culture?
Who wants to take it? Yeah, I'll take it. So I think probably you have glimpsed through what we mentioned before. Like we try to be highly collaborative. Like no single project is owned by a single person. It's always going to be by a team. It does give overhead. Like sometimes if it's a single person working on something, it will probably be more efficient, but it's not efficient as a company because we will need to coordinate how to transfer that knowledge. So I would say, I would say that collaboration is one of the number one pillars that we have.
Awesome.
Yeah, and sorry, I guess just wanted to add on that. I would say taking ownership of things. So ownership of whatever your team is building, from the development process to deploying it to production, and then kind of innovating on those ideas and just, yeah, taking ownership.
I guess our next question is regarding AI from your personal view. What do you see Bloomberg does to keep into the innovative path the world needs?
I can say something which is very personal because, I don't have a background in finance, and maybe, you would have thought that going into the world of finance, you would have found that the world of finance is extremely technologically advanced, but you would be surprised of the kind of inefficiency that you can see both in communication and in the way trades are performed. And I think there is a lot of way to help people that do this as a job, trading as a job, to this inefficiency, to make their life easier and be able to achieve what they want to achieve in a faster and more effective way, I would say. And I think one of the things that Bloomberg does is exactly that.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, just quickly, I think that while we have a lot of really intelligent people in the company, what the innovative energy or the path that the world needs require a lot more than just us to think about it. So the way I think Bloomberg contributes to that is to collaborate with people in academia, and also granting a lot of postdoc grants, fellowships, and a lot of collaboration grants as well, so that we know what kind of path we can support and give them all the resources that they need.
What I want to add also is something that, again, I also don't have a finance background, but now that I understand what happens also within the negotiations in the finance world, they are actually negotiating our pension funds, negotiating how, like, a lot of the, basically what a lot of the money that of regular people investing in it. And whenever, for example, in communications, we make it more efficient for them to be able to be compliant, while at the same time be able to do business, then making trades is cheaper. So it's cheaper for you to maintain a pension fund. whenever we're able to detect that there's some anomaly between the communications, we can also avoid frauds that are happening that may create a bubble eventually. So it's, I think from the beginning, the main reason why Bloomberg was created was to give transparency to the fixed income market, which if you're not familiar is probably twice the market of the equity market. So it's things that you don't know, but most of the things that are actually traded are not equities, are municipal bonds, are commodities, and all of that is where the actual, I guess, decisions and the future of the world kind of depends upon, because that's what will be the money that will create bridges. That's what will be the money that will maintain, I don't know, the airlines going. So all of this, it's where I think it seems that it's like detached to the real world, but it's actually very real. It's exactly like saving or keeping the transparent that market is quite important for many reasons.
Yeah, maybe just one quick thing to add, related to that note is the world needs technology and AI to help really get into a world that's more like equitable and equal and just. So the way we kind of support that is also by sponsoring a lot of these conferences that has this kind of workshops to promote ideas in that area.
Should we move on the list?
Yes. Perfect. The next question is, what was your area of study that you developed in your career?
During Bloomberg, I guess, I'm guessing.
I think, yeah, well,
While being at Bloomberg. I mean, personally, I guess if I could start, I guess is my background was mostly optimization. Like nonlinear optimization, I guess, is very similar to the problems that when you have a loss function, you will run those algorithms. But yeah, like I learned NLP and how to handle text and how to map, I don't know, how to represent text and then do some math after the representation here in Bloomberg. So all of the NLP knowledge that I know, the core NLP knowledge that I know, is mostly by solving NLP problems here at Bloomberg.
anyone else want to answer? Or, okay. And then another question, what AI platforms do you recommend to get? Also, what technologies in general would you recommend us to learn to use to perform the type of work that you do?
I would say that, well, depending on if you were interested in joining the team that develops the platform. I would say on my team, it's really just anything and everything. All of our stuff runs on Kubernetes, so I think that's one of the very important topics to learn about. But any of the open source existing tools related to AI, we try to support.
So yeah, I mean, it's difficult to choose a tool because at the beginning, like for example, we started to train neural nets, like TensorFlow was kind of the way to go, but we definitely had like our own layer of abstraction to train models or to do inference on models, so that if we could swap that with PyTorch, which seems to be quite popular now, it was kind of seamless. So more than AI platforms technology, I think is for you to develop or train your models in a way that you can quickly swap technologies. Try to also develop in a way that is local to your laptop, that you have always containers so that you can declare everything. I will try to avoid Jupyter notebooks, but that's a personal choice because that doesn't force you to declare everything that you need. For us, it's a lot of tech debt, but they are unavoidable. So sometimes you do need to put them dirty. But yeah, it's definitely not married to one single technology. Just try to abstract your problem from the actual technology that you use to train your models or to do inference on them.
Next question is, I guess, about the preparation for the interview. What advice would you give to when applying to an NLP. I guess maybe we can talk about just a little bit on what the interview today.
Sorry, so I think you're cutting out, Irinka, again.
Again?
Can you
Just
hear me?
but you're cutting sometimes. I can read it. So what advice would you give to candidates when applying to an NLP position? So it has always been hard to it because you have to be very good at software engineering and ML at the same time. Chances on failing in one interview, coding question concepts are higher. So I guess like the question is, do you need to fill all of the boxes to join our group? I don't know, Ducho or Charlie, maybe you can answer those.
I can give you my experience as I joined Bloomberg as my first non-academic job, and I'm not a computer scientist by training. And on top of that, not trained in NLP. So I would say that, first of all, there are some common things that when you're interviewing in a software company, you will necessarily prepare on, and that those are the standard things. But what I find very what happens during the interview at Bloomberg, what happens to me is that people try to focus on things they know you're gonna know. They are in your background. So if your background somehow towards like there's gonna be more focus on that. People don't try to find a question that is going to fit. Okay? If your background is not NLP, in order to enter AI, you're not going to be asked NLP questions. That's not in your background. As I said, AI is not just NLP. And, the fact that, you may do better in one question than another is kept in consideration. And that's why, for instance, there are 2 phone rounds. So you're not evaluated on a single thing. You're not evaluated on the weakest of the thing. You're not evaluated on the thing that you know the least, but on the contrary, on the one you're expert.
So I guess to summarize, you were also cutting out for me a little bit, but we cast a very wide net, like that we don't have a very specific position. When you apply to AI, you apply for the whole group, and then we will match you to a team based on the conversation that we will have with you. If you enter our team, then you will decide what team will best fit for you. But in order for us to do that, then we cannot be that specific or that prescriptive of what we want from you. We just, based on your resume, based on our conversation, we will basically target the interview based on that. And sometimes, as you just said, sometimes your background might not be very strong in software engineering, but we will gauge if there's potential for you to gain those skills as you join us. There's some other questions. Go ahead, sorry, Charlie.
No, it's okay. So I have a couple of things to add here. One is about advice in preparing, and the other advice is just to the perspective on the interview. So in terms of preparation, a lot of people in AI do not have the right background, as everyone has already pointed out. In order to really demonstrate your strength, it's really in terms of preparation. There's no way you would see all the different interview questions and NLP problems, but what you could do is really to kind of take a look at, let's say, like open competitions and Kaggle and things like that to identify problems that you think might be interesting and NLP related, and you through practice and just kind of working through it, you would probably develop some intuition over time, and even like one problem would get you a lot of interesting insights and concepts that you will learn about that you can talk about during an interview. So doing these kind of hands-on problem solving before an interview would be helpful, and maybe even checking out the GitHub repo, trying things out, and maybe showcasing whatever you come up with from there. Obviously, strong machine learning foundation is really important. So kind of going through the fundamental concepts, whatever problem you're trying to solve, relating back to it would help you communicate a little bit better. So I would give that advice in terms of preparation. And in terms of the interview like perspective. You're not really graded in all the checkboxes in every interview. What we really care about is finding a colleague to work with us that can tackle new problems. So what we really want to understand through an interview is, even if you fail, do you know why you're failing? Ask questions to get yourself unstuck. Tell us that you're stuck in this place. Is there any way we can work together to get to a common answer or something? I think the problem-solving skills demonstrated through the interview when you're quote-unquote failing would be actually can be taken in, as an advantage to your evaluation. So please don't see one thing as like super critical. Just turn it around into something that helps you. Yeah. That's it.
There's some questions in the chat, not in the question. I don't know if you want to go through those, or should we answer the other one? Erika, your colleague, you're the moderator.
Yeah, I think that was a similar question to the question just answered. But Nike saying that she has she's currently a requested student who's very interested in NLP research. Would I need to do a computer science, software engineering degree, data science degree next in order to work in this?
So I would say that you don't need a degree, but you do need the skills for you to know how to solve. At the end of the day, we produce software, right? Like the output of our research, the output of what we do is a piece of code that will be deployed to our clients, or from Dolly's side, she works in the platform, to other ML engineers for them to use their platforms, right? So you do need the skills to be able to translate the answer of your, or of the answer of your of whatever is asked into some type of code. Now the level of how we expect the code, it can vary, but at the end of the day, we'll need to know that you can translate that idea into into software. So it is not that we look for the degree, but we do look for the skill. I don't know if that's, they're related, I guess, but we do have people that have no computer science background, so that's why it's not necessary.
And we have one question about internship. Can you tell us a bit more about internship in AI?
Duce, you want to take that one?
Yes.
None of us were interns in Bloomberg, unfortunately. We might want to be more diverse on the next panel there.
So, Bloomberg every year, and this is kind of the period where interns arrive, and there, at least AI works with different kind of interns. There are more software-oriented interns that come here to help on a well-defined like software problem, optimizing some kind of code path or some kind of software problem we have, and we want to work with the intern to see what we can do. Maybe because it is a feature, it is somewhat experimental, and so we want to see where we can go with that. There are research intern, which on the other hand gets hired exactly with the goal of working on a research problem, and so when they arrive, we make sure that this problem is well defined, the resources are there, and so we try to match the background of the intern with the actual problem that we would like to solve, and we try to work on this problem for the 1.5 to 3 months that the intern is here, and the goal is publication at a major conference, or get out the publication out of it. And regarding the details of applying for an internship, I'm probably not completely familiar where to go and exactly do that, but yes, this is more or less the role of internship.
I think it's, as any other tech company, the process starts probably around September, so that we can then get interns starting May of the next year. So I think that's pretty standard.
Yeah, I would say the internship gets posted in around August, end of August, September time, and usually in fall is when we do all the interviews for the internships.
And the idea, if I can add something, the intern get to see the day-to-day life at Bloomberg. So they're not just detached from everything else and we just meet with their mentor, but we try to have them, you know, attending our meeting and like trying to see how it is like to work at Bloomberg. And I think we work on a day-to-day basis.
Should we also mention the postdoc research fellowship?
Yeah, now you did it. So we also have a couple of grants. So there's a research grant where we support a student. So it's mostly related to this professor. We support a student, I think, for a whole year. By the end of that year, in that summer, that student will be an intern with us, and we'll present the work that they've done throughout the year. So that's one of the grants. It includes tuition, so that or part of the tuition. And the other grant is a postdoc, where a postdoc position where that person, after they graduate from the PhD, they can join us as a postdoc manager just to solve, pretty much be part of any of our teams, but be much more focused into open-ended questions. Yeah, not too much into productionization of the ideas, but keep exploring more than anything else. So yeah, both positions are there. I think maybe Irinka, you can probably share all of those things later on.
Yes, and I can share the link to the fellowship as well, so that you can, if you're interested, you can learn more. Here's the link. I guess, do we have any other questions for our panelists?
It's a question about visas. I can tell from my experience, yes, we support visas.
Yes, we have a state immigration team, so they usually work with you to figure out how we can support you. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for being with us today. It was nice meeting you virtually, chatting with you, and hopefully we'll stay connected.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. So I guess we are ready to close, right, Tamar? And I think all the organizers are here still. So thank you for our friends from Bloomberg. So I will take from here. Let me share the screen. I hope it's visible now for everyone.
Yes.
Well, not for me, for some reason. Okay, no. Okay, well, this was our last day of the summer school, the Mexican NLP summer school virtual version for the second time, because this happened last year also. Let's hope next year we can meet face to face. And well, before the official closure of this, I would like to say a few words. So first of all, I would like to thank to all our sponsors, Bloomberg, that was an important part of this. Thanks to them, we were able to pay for the Zoom license. Also to the Mexican Consortium of Artificial Intelligence. We were able to pay a few scholarships to some Mexican students to attend the main conference of NACL. So we hope all of them enjoy the NACL conference and also to learn a lot, to meet a lot of people that is part of the experience, right? Also, a big thank you to the Universidad Autónoma Metropolitana. Thanks to the support of the university, we were able to get the service of simultaneous translation. So this is very important for us because the majority of the attendees are from Latin America, and we expect that thanks to this, all of them will be more motivated and involved in this type of events. Also, thanks to all the speakers. This was a very awesome number of speakers, and well, what can I say? If you miss some of the talks, the majority of these are recorded in YouTube. Let's hope we can meet them again in some other edition of the school. Thank you to everyone. And also, I would like to say thank you to all the attendees and the work of the volunteers, that we have many volunteers helping recollecting the questions and helping in the organization, the on-life organization. But I don't have nothing else to say. That to everyone who is going to NACL, enjoy NACL. I don't know if some of my colleagues here, Tamar or someone else, would like to add something.
Yes, I do. So now, next week, or actually Sunday, NACL starts. I think we can stay in touch during NACL. We can meet up in Gathertown or during some of the break sections. So let's continue this event through NACL. And before everyone leaves, I would just personally would like to thank the organizing team, Esaú, Jimena, Gabriela, Elena, Samuel. You were a wonderful team to work with. This was my first experience organizing this with you guys, but you were amazing. So I really appreciate everything you did. Thank you so much. This was a success because you put in a lot of effort into that. So thank you so much. It was a great event.
Yeah, thank you, Tamar, also to you.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you, Tamar, and everyone.
Sí, muchas gracias a todos nuestros asistentes. Pues, no sé, con esto podemos terminar y...
Let's celebrate, even virtually, tonight. Or right now, because it's already evening for some of you, grab a beer or your favorite drink, and cheers to everyone for a very successful event. Salud a todos. Cheers. Tengo agua, pero más al rato me echo mi vino, ¿cómo no? Salud.
Nos vemos, que estén muy bien.
Nos vemos en la edición del próximo año.
Igualmente, gracias a todos.